I thought one of the things we could do is talk about the hardware diagnostics, and why they're not included in D7.2.
Yeah.
I've written something for this response, but I'm not quite done with it.
Okay.
Ended up being a lot longer than I'd planned it to be.
Alright, looks like YouTube should be YouTubing. Checking sound. Good there, and looks like Twitch is twitching. So we are live. So, welcome everyone to the Foolish Tech Show. It is a Thursday, almost done with another week. And we're here to provide support and answer any questions about our software and services. If you'd like to ask any of those questions, you can feel free to jump over to foolishtechshow.com. We have our IRC chat set up in a couple different ways there, and you can join our awesome crew that we have in there. And otherwise, we'll just talk about random tech stuff and shop and what haves you. And if you're in the chat, you can also steer those conversations as well. So, Proctor had something he wanted to start off the day with, or did you want me
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah. Let me
start off
start
the
off with that. Yeah, Brantley. We had an interesting thing come through the our forums earlier today, and it's something that's we've been asked a lot about, and this person was wanting us to clarify how this would be handled in D7X. And the question was about hardware diagnostics, hardware diagnostics, as to whether or not we were going to include those in D7X or not. Currently, we don't have that type of functionality built into D7.2. And my feelings on it are that hardware diagnostic software is generally not all that reliable in finding problems. I have almost 20 years of experience working on computers, and normally I find that trial and error diagnostics are the best route to go and get a much more definitive and quicker solution than using the various hardware diagnostics, except for in the case of hard drives and RAM. Most of the time, if I may suspect a hard drive is the problem for various different reasons, but then would use some type of diagnostic to confirm that. And I normally use the manufacturer of the hard drives diagnostic utility, which is they provide freely to perform that type of diagnostic. And for
Mm-hmm.
RAM, most of the time I just swap out RAM using trial and error diagnostics if I think there's a memory problem. Or also, sometimes Windows stop errors can lead you to um, the memory being the problem. But rarely have I ever had to, use a memory diagnostic to find out that the memory is the problem. Like every now and then, I've had issues that I just couldn't seem to track down, like a ghost in the machine type scenario. And I've ran a RAM diagnostic, and it's determined that the memory was bad, and that um, was my diagnostic path for that. Um,
Well, and what other kinds of real hardware are there to test? Like, I mean, motherboard. The only motherboard testing software that I know of would be things um, like the Dell's integrated system test, and those are I rarely find any errors or anything ever reported from those. Processor, it's I mean, doing a burn-in test, which that is included in D7 and D7.2 currently. So stress testing heart processor and RAM would be about the only test I could think really that would apply there.
yeah, I
Your
mean
sound
there
cards
are
mostly
there
integrated.
right.
Yeah, good.
There are tons of hardware diagnostic software on the market that supposedly tests the motherboard and the processor and the RAM, the hard drive, and every component in the computer. But over the years, I've tried various different products, and most of the time, I come out with a clean bill of health when I know there's a hardware problem, unless it's
Yeah,
the hard
and
drive or memory.
that's one of the things when I was doing a bunch of on-sites is whenever I left for an on-site is I would have a kit that I would set up for swapping out hardware pieces. So having an extra power supply on hand, having an extra CD burner on hand, having extra, if I knew what I was getting into, like we had built the computer, I could go ahead and take a processor, motherboard, all of that stuff with me and be able to swap them out. I mean, that is your most surefire way to say, yep, this piece is dead. Otherwise, it's not something I feel software does a good job at diagnosing, honestly.
Yeah, I agree.
It's hard for them to detect popped capacitors. That's something you have to look for. Um, and it's hard for them to detect overheating besides stress testing, which that still might not even show up the terms of overheating. Like you may have to do it for a long time. And then there's those capacitors that build up and then discharge, and that's when you have the issue and all kinds of stuff like that. So,
And software
as
can't test that.
yeah, and really the only way to test that kind of stuff is swapping them out. But also with most of your stuff, you're going integrated now anyway. So if you have a bad video card or sound driver, it maybe you're going to have to replace that motherboard anyway. Especially with the age of laptops pretty much creeping up on us full time now. If someone has a hardware problem, they're more than likely looking at replacing the system itself. Sometimes, like I know, laptop system boards can run you at least a third, if not half, of the price of a brand new laptop. So
Yeah, almost any time you have to replace the motherboard in a laptop, it's pretty close to the replacement cost of the laptop.
yeah, and Phoenix points out that he uses his easy to boot drive and has some hardware tools loaded up on there. Phoenix, if you want to throw out the names of some of those hardware tools, I'm sure some other people would appreciate that. Sharia uses burn-in test. D72 actually has a built-in stress tester and even a rebooter. That actually has helped solve a couple problems sometimes. And Phoenix also points out that Jeff Hallish says that he normally uses the built-in BIOS tools to analyze the system and check there, or he uses Eurosoft's PC check for some things. I haven't used that one myself, so I can't prescribe one way or the other on it. But I mean, like Proctor was saying, usually swapping out is going to be your fastest way to determine if there's an issue or a problem. So. Yeah, good stuff. And again, we've been talking about having a bootable CD version of D72, D7X, but really, if you make a PE CD, you can fit all of that stuff into even an easy to boot setup. So that's honestly your better route to go. I mean, there's no reason to recreate the wheel if so many other places are so much better at it. Plus, you have so many different variations of hardware. I mean, we would have to like learn the ins and outs of everything to be able to design software for that. So why do that if there's already stuff out there doing it
And
and does it
most bootable hardware diagnostics are running their own operating system. They're not running Windows anyway.
better?
Uh,
Yeah,
so that would you wouldn't be able to combine D7.2 or D7X with a non-Windows operating system boot disk in the first place.
yeah. So and past the RAM and hard drive, which I've even seen those pass with flying colors and still have an issue with the drive or RAM. So
Oh yeah.
Um, those aren't always reliable either. And it could end up even being the RAM slot on the board that is causing the issue, not the actual RAM stick itself. So that's really something you have to kind of just swap around, play around with, and find out. It's not something that you can have software come up and tell you, at least not yet. I mean, that'll be awesome when computers are able to say, "Oh, my tummy hurts, fix me." But we're definitely not at that point yet.
I'm going to throw out there that, and maybe I'm jumping the gun on it, but at assuming it's correct, but I have seen like mem tests and like Windows Memory Diagnostic even report things, errors with RAM that like where it happened instantly. Like it was either instant, like as soon as the test started, or it was within the first like 5 minutes or the first like round of tests. Like if it ever went like a full pass of tests, to me it was worthless unless you were just, you know,
Uh,
you know, it's, it's just. But it's one of those like indicators where you can try it and like it doesn't take much time. But
yeah,
beyond
if
that,
I see it fail like right off the gate, then usually that
yeah.
does indicate something is going wrong. But
Yeah. I mean,
like you're saying,
it might
you
save you
have to
from
run
opening
through.
the case, but yeah, other than that, I'm going to open up the case myself and swap around.
Yeah. Um,
Especially if it's consistent.
Shree says she'll use a power supply tester to check voltage on load and things like that, and those definitely are good. Sometimes costly investments, but if you're dealing with a lot of bad power supplies, it is definitely nice to have one of those on hand. My easier check for power supplies has always just been swapping it out real quick. Besides the cabling hassle that some PC manufacturers and even personal users go through to make their systems look pretty, usually
Mm-hmm.
a power supply swap out isn't that hard. Even still, with the cabling, you can leave it and just plug in another power supply.
Yeah, and so you would probably do that in the field. I don't know. It would for me depend on the situation. I've certainly done it before, but on the bench, I would always, just pop the side of the case and just unhook something. And I always had like a power supply with some long leads,
Mm-hmm.
just had long IDE cables and SATA cables. I mean, just long cables, man. Longest cables you can get for everything.
Yeah.
So I just reach them all over.
So yeah, I'm not a fan of software to diagnose hardware myself, and it,
How about for our MSPs who don't have physical access to the computer? Do you have recommendations for them?
have a good mail-in system.
Yeah.
That'd be the only.
Well, actually, there's probably something that can be done and automated through dSport Suite or something else too. I mean, in the way of taking advantage of newer technologies in Windows, Windows Memory Diagnostic and access to the event logs and stuff like that, configuring it, and
Yeah,
I
but I
mean, you
mean,
can do probably.
you would still be looking through event logs and trying to decipher what's going on. It's not like, I mean, like I was saying, we
Well,
really
you
haven't
would be
gotten
unless
to
you
the point
automated it.
where, well, we haven't gotten to the point where Windows writes an event log. Hey, my motherboard's bad. Hey, my
Well, not for your board, but it will do that for RAM. Like right now, I think you can do with the memory diagnostic. You can like schedule it to run and have it write events and stuff like that.
yeah.
But I mean,
But that would just be one very small piece of
I know. It's
the
just one
hardware
thing.
they're asking for. So, and
Yeah,
and that's all. The other thing too is you don't see a lot of software errors specific to a hardware error generally.
mhm.
Yeah.
Like,
Normally the things you see in the
you know,
event log that are hardware related, basically the only indication you have is something is wrong with hardware, but it doesn't direct you to
Mm.
which piece of hardware.
We can get like also the well, yeah, beyond the RAM thing, but
Yeah.
we can also get like oh the smart status and some stuff like that.
yeah,
I wonder if there's something to do. I wonder if there's some additional information with some UFEI stuff.
maybe it seems like that's more directed towards security
I
stuff, things like that.
don't know, or just something with the newer Windows 10ish stuff.
Yeah, well, I still don't think, like I said, it'll be great when computers do come up and say, "Hey, my tummy hurts, replace my motherboard." But
Hmm. Hmm.
we're a long way off from that. And honestly, I look at the industry more to blame the hardware manufacturers themselves, because they don't really come up with a universal standard code system that says, hey, this is bad, hey, you should check this, hey. Like, I mean, at least hard
Yes
drives
and
kind of
no.
did that.
Like yes and no, but when you're actually testing stuff and not relying on the firmware of the drive to tell you what's going on,
Mm.
that is always doable. And like with the hard drives that we were talking earlier, I always used to carry GW scan around. It was basically Western Digital's hard drive diagnostic, but it was unlocked for gateways usage. So you could use it on any hard drive, and it reliably read results of anything that was in the system. So I used to use that all the time, but I mean, probably a couple things around like that, or if anybody has something like that.
Well, I know most of your hard drive stuff, or at least last ones I tested, they don't limit themselves to their own drive specifically. Like when you download them, they recommend you use it only on their drives, but usually you can use them on any drive.
Right, right.
But I
Well, a
did.
lot of times, well, it used to be locked like all the time. I don't know about now. It used like all of them used to be locked, like, and there was a trend that everyone was going that way. And, manufacturer locked diagnostic, but or they would just be like, hey, I don't work on this drive for some reason. But
RTM Tech mentioned Ultra Products, and I think I've heard of their hardware diagnostics. They actually have a very advanced post type card, but I haven't used it. Would be curious to know if he's used it and what kind of experience he's had with it. But their looks like their website's down. I'm not sure if they're in business anymore, which might indicate the answer to my
It's not a
question.
good sign. Not a good sign on that.
I'd say not. It's sitting lower. There we go. Apparently.
I'm trying to help Michael with this thing.
Oh, good.
Sorry.
What's
It's okay.
he up?
I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. You don't have to if you don't want to. Focus on the show, man. It's not.
No, what's happening, Michael?
Well, no, it's not even worth bringing up.
Yeah,
I don't.
it really isn't. I've got it
It really
postponed for today. I've got it under control, Brantley, because I pulled out all the stops. But we'll need to probably talk about this again. So I'll give you an update after the show.
Okay. Well, Phoenix.
Bringing up on the show. Thanks.
Yeah. Phoenix is super ready to talk about links. So it looks like hackers report a vulnerability in Mr. Robot Season 2 website. What are they gathering from that? I mean, why is that newsworthy? Like, I wouldn't expect Mr. Robot website thing to be like super awesome, honestly. Like, it's probably just run by USA. I wouldn't see why they would be super awesome at their website stuff, but Kernel backdoor found in gadgets powered by popular Chinese arm maker. That's kind of interesting, depending on what it actually entails. RTM Tech points out he doesn't use the postcard, just the PS tester for quick diagnostics. We had one of those things back at the shop we worked at too, Nick. You remember that postcard that was basically worthless?
Yeah, that was worthless.
Yeah, I tried out a few of those over the years, and they were worthless.
Yeah.
When I first started a business when I was young, and my dad thought he knew all the answers to things, I was about 12 or 13 years old or whatever, and I started getting some money from repairing some computers, and so he got me a post board like what you guys are describing, and yeah, it ended up being relatively worthless. I mean, it was you go through the motions, but it was just like going through the motions. It never provided me a benefit of getting a resolution to a problem that I wanted. About the only thing it would do was confirm something I already knew, you know. So I didn't find the power or the
I
use.
never confirm much of anything.
Yeah, I never got it to do much for me either.
Well, I mean, I've had it, narrow the problem down to like a video card before, but I mean it's so simple to troubleshoot those types of things otherwise.
I've
It
had
takes
it
more
make
time
me
to troubleshoot.
the tool itself.
Well, there you go. Okay, but see, the thing is, by the time it takes me to get to the analysis that I want with that, I could have gone through simple troubleshooting steps to rule out or not something like a video card or anything else. So these things cost so much money, and they don't save you any time. So what are they selling? What are their selling points? Is what I'm getting at.
I think they're just scamware, honestly.
I mean, because every computer posts itself, and if the postcodes were enough to fully diagnose a computer, then no one would have computer problems, you know?
Well, and that's part of the industry standard. Like all motherboards have different postcodes and things like that sometimes. So
That information isn't hard to find, though.
Usually depends on how new your hardware that you're dealing with is.
And if it's that old, maybe you should just replace it to begin with. So
usually it's not something brand new that you're trying to diagnose. Phoenix also points out the active hours in Windows 10 to avoid sudden restarts on updates. He also points out that it's only available in preview mode right now, but we'll go ahead and point out that D7.2 can do it right now and prevent restarts. There's a couple tweaks in D7.2's tweak tab that you can use to adjust and set those settings, so you don't even have to rely on Windows telling Windows when you're working on it. Like, that's just one of the dumbest features I ever heard. Like, why does Windows not know that I'm working on it? It's like, obviously I'm not using my computer.
What link is this?
Well, that could be attributed to developers who do things, and the OS just not, picking up on the fact that mouse movement.
Well, I mean, it's for Windows updating itself.
I mean,
like, why would Windows not know that you're working with it?
Yeah, you think it could check real quick.
Yeah.
Like observe for, 15 minutes, or like a configurable window, like an hour. 5 would be nice for me, but if anything happens in that window, then you don't mess with anything.
Or just give me the option to say I want to install it when I want to install it.
Yeah, it shouldn't bother you like at all during that. Like if you're working, But if you're not, it should just ask you nicely with the option to.
Well, and I've actually found that it does for me. I did apply that D7.2 thing, but the most I've had Windows updates do to me in the past 4 or 5 months has been, it pops up a box and says, "Hey, we've scheduled a update. Is this time okay?" Mm-hmm. And I'm like,
"Yeah, it's nice when you configure it nice."
Yeah. So.
D7.2, what do they say? FTW, something like
that. So Phoenix points out the Mr. Robot thing was they were able to gain personal info from Facebook accounts. And honestly, that falls back on the users. If they're giving Facebook credentials to Mr. Robot site, they already got more problems going on in their life.
Well, it's one of those lazy things, or something that is not even provided as an option if you go mobile or something where, excuse me, you have the single sign-on thing going on where you're signed into Facebook and then you go to that website and it's like, you're signed into your Facebook. Would you like to allow this site to,
with that though, it's
and everybody's like, oh yeah, because then I don't have to create an account on this stupid site.
The reason you would do that though is so that Facebook handles all that stuff. So that website getting hacked shouldn't get any more than maybe your profile picture and your name.
Which it's going to get exactly what you give it permission to
access,
and with Facebook and that, it's probably asking for a lot.
possibly.
So,
Yeah, I never use my Facebook account to log into new services or sign up for new services because I don't want to allow them to have access to all of my friends' information and my
but you
information.
do you open yourself up to things like this. It's like you have no control over it now because not like you do anyway, but you're just opening up your attack surface.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very careful with not allowing access to my Facebook information, but the people I'm friends with on Facebook, I don't know how well they um,
Yeah.
guard our privacy. Probably not
Well, I
well.
mean,
Well, you can't share everything. You can't share anything that you're worried about on Facebook at all. Not even with your Facebook friends or whatever that you trust, because that's you got to keep that offline, y'all.
whenever you do sign in with Facebook, it explicitly asks you, "Hey, do you want to give this app permission to do XXX?" And you can say no. So
Yeah, and I click
Yeah,
the hell no button.
and if you do, like the app usually will refuse to work and there's no way to can you not granular?
well, you can. You can say things like you can change it to me only. So the only thing that would, if it does post something to my wall, it would only show up to me. It wouldn't show up anywhere else.
Right, but what I'm saying is with respect to the things that it can access, can you, like it says, okay, can access your friends, your wall posts, your private data. There's like a list of things. Can you check off like just stuff to not let it
Usually
do?
not. You can just tell it how
You never
far
could
out it can
before.
get. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you tell it how far out it can get, if it can only access stuff that's visible only to you, then it can't go further out of that containment.
hmm
So,
But things that are visible only to you are like everything. What do you mean? That, huh?
I don't know how it works. Again, why are you signing in to Mr. Robot's website with
Yeah.
Facebook credentials anyway? Who cares? What are they
Yeah.
giving you,
Stop it.
honestly, in return for that? That's your fault. um, he also points out that FBI won't say whether it bought these Gmail password stealing boxes. I'm guessing they lost the receipt, so even if they did, then they'll have to return it. And that's why you should have two-factor auth on your Google accounts. Been available for quite some time, and you can use Easy to Boot to do it. So
There's no reason not to.
yeah, or you can use YubiKey to do it, not Easy to Boot. I was reading
I
his
was
next
wondering
thing.
how you were doing that.
Yeah, no.
I was like, hey, you can use your cell phone. What are you talking about?
Yeah, you can use your cell phone or YubiKey, or there's lots of two-factor auth that you should be doing already. So them having your password shouldn't get them much. Next, Phoenix posted Easy to Boot 1.8 has been released, so you can download it if you'd like. And he also mentions that Never 10 isn't seeing the same issues that other GWX controllers or whatever are seeing if you're trying to prevent the Windows 10 upgrade. So I have been using Never 10 and haven't had any issues with it, so just throw that out there. And RTM Tech never refriend anybody, unfriend on Facebook, and he only trusts his alter ego on Facebook. Hopes it trusts him.
Yeah, you shouldn't trust your alter ego on Facebook.
So, hey Michael, you'll like this video, and I actually learned something from it as well. It basically talks about how far we could go even if we had interstellar travel to the point that we know of its capabilities right now. Like, this isn't talking about once we figure out what dark matter energy is and how to utilize that. Like, that will fix this issue.
Well, may or may not. We're not sure.
Yeah, possibly. Well, from what they describe, it kind of seems like it would fix it no matter what. But anyway,
I have to read it.
it's a video, so you watch it.
Oh.
But anyway, it was really well done and simplified, so it's kind of cool to see those things in a easy to understand language. But basically, the point they were saying is that we won't be able, like, so we're in a galaxy cluster. So our galaxy is within a cluster of galaxies, and then there's millions of other clusters of galaxies. And with our current understanding of technology, even if we had the capabilities to create that technology, we wouldn't be able to explore the universe outside of our own cluster of galaxies. Essentially, it's because of how gravity is working. That's why the cluster of galaxies stay together, and in a few billion years, all of the galaxies in our cluster will end up forming one big galaxy, basically.
That's interesting.
And if we try to travel out to one of the other galaxies or clusters, space is expanding at a speed that we would never be able to match, let alone overcome.
Yeah.
So even if we just went out into the dead of space and tried to keep getting out to the next cluster of galaxies, it would be moving further away from us than we could ever travel to get close to
close the distance. It's accelerating away from us faster than we could ever travel forward to catch up with it. Now, that's of course based upon us not being able to exceed the speed of light. And while that is consistently regarded as the cosmic speed limit, that doesn't mean that there may not be possibilities to traverse large distances without acceleration. Meaning by bending of space time as opposed to passing through it.
And like I was saying, this is all based off of our current understanding of the technology that we may someday be able to create, but we're not.
Yeah.
So is the video assuming that our limit to where we can travel is limited to the speed of light?
Yeah.
Much, yeah.
But basically that means that a large portion of the universe will never, ever be available to us. If that truly is the limit at which we can travel, and there's no method to circumvent it, we will never get to the locations that Brantley described.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. Also, the fact that in a few billion years, when the galaxies in our cluster have all combined into one galaxy, if there is a life form at that time living in that galaxy, the other clusters of galaxies will have gone so far away that they won't be able to see any of that. So
they won't ever know the universe existed beyond them, basically.
Yeah. You're saying the light from those distant galaxies is not even going to reach our galaxy cluster.
Yeah, by the time it reaches us, it turns into like a super long wavelength, and they wouldn't even be able to detect that with the current.
The wavelength would be the wavelength would be longer than a light year. I mean, there would be no energy. It would be such low amounts of energy at that point that it would be undetectable.
Yeah. But the other cool thing about that was that they wouldn't even be able to detect the Big Bang or anything at that time period. So we're actually lucky that we can still see back to the creation of the universe. And as time goes on, we're going to be able to see less and less of that. So I thought that was pretty interesting as well.
I had that focused on that much, but that is something I'd like to read up on more. Thank you.
So Cherie says, giving us a suggestion for a app to add into D72. Let's see what we got there. Spybot Anti-Beacon. Looks like it's going off. Is it off the original Spybot? So this is Spybot's way of protecting privacy, I'm guessing. I'm not sure about that. Spybot's kind of lost my my interest for it. But as Phoenix points out, you can't always create a third-party app, and we have done a couple shows on those. They're in our D72 video list, so you can see how to create a third-party app pretty easily. But sharing the config via dcloud, I don't believe you're able to do that in D7.2. It's only available in the original D7. If I'm not mistaken, last time I checked, you couldn't share with dcloud anymore. There are some shared, but you can't share anymore. So we had talked about earlier in a previous show the ending of an era with Cracker Jacks not giving out toys anymore.
What?
Well, oh, you missed that, Proctor?
I guess so.
Why would you buy it then?
Yeah, that's what we asked.
Yeah.
But no, apparently they're giving you like a phone app, and you're supposed to augment reality your enjoyment of buying Cracker Jacks with a augmented phone app toy. I don't know. It was terrible. So
I hope it augments my taste buds so that I enjoy eating the Cracker Jacks.
yeah.
Yeah, they're like the worst
Yeah.
things ever.
Yeah, Nick, you were there because you brought up the fact of getting gourmet Cracker Jacks. Like the Cracker Jacks were for kids, and that you should buy gourmet.
Well, I like Poppycock. I really like Poppycock. Is the brand. It's like a bit more expensive than crack. It's a bit more expensive crack. Like there's Crunch and Munch, which is a little step up, and then there's like there's things. It's like, I mean, but Cracker Jacks, really?
Yeah, it's sad, but
You want the toy?
the point of that bringing that up again was Disney is going to discontinue the Disney dollar. And I remember having some of these. I wish I still had some of these because they'd probably be worth something right now. They definitely will be worth something after, I think, May 16th or something.
What are they going to? Disney Bitcoin?
No, I think they're just replacing it.
I'm sorry, Bitcoin. That would be funny. With the kids now.
It would be nice to have a blockchain for Disney. But these were essentially gift cards anyway, so they're just moving to gift cards solely. But I mean, that was kind of the experience of going to Disney World, is you traded in your money for Disney dollars, and then you could spend it at all the places in Disney World. So sad to see that go. Sad that kids of the future won't be able to have that same option.
Oh, so we only have 2 more days to get Disney dollars?
I believe so.
Yeah, I wish I'd have saved some too.
Efolia? What's that, Nick?
That's where you can make your request to the for information through the Freedom of Information Act or the Privacy Act, so the FBI for records. I just thought I would put that out there. That's why I was silent a few minutes ago, because I was really just checking that out.
Are you requesting some information to be freed?
No. Well, no. If you're looking for, like, there's a lot of stuff already on the vault, and there's the link for that.
Oh, cool.
There
are a few caveats to that, though.
Yes, there are, and you may have to use the caveat. Like, for example, there is a paper form you may need.
Well, and also to get the information, it may not be free.
Yeah, I know. I think I've heard of it costing like $35 or something.
Yeah, I've heard of much larger sums of that, but that's usually with
I guess
that do it all the time. But then the other caveat of that is that you have to request a specific file or something like that. And if they go and look for that file and the document that's supposed to be in that file that you're looking for has been misplaced or organized into another file, you'll basically just have you'll get your file, but it'll just be like, oh, this has been reclassified under this document. Then you have to go and sign up for another Freedom of Information Act for that one, and it could just end up leading you down a trail of, oh, we
Well,
recap.
I guess so. If you really want to go there, I'm not really sure what you're talking about. Trailing, tracking down through the FBI's paper trails, but
So, like, if you wanted to find the report of the alien autopsy they did in Roswell,
okay, yeah.
like you
I
find
was
out
actually just talking.
this case
I was
file.
actually just talking about finding out information on people like yourself. For one thing, they have to tell you everything they know about
Oh, that's
you.
cool.
I have to give you like your file, like your entire, like, and you request it, and they give you everything. Actually, you know what? I've already lost the link, I think, but I got this. I'd already started this from a Graham Cluley or something article. He's the security blogger. He used to work for some major paper, and now he's just a blogger, I guess. But or he's probably in the tiny feed somewhere. But yeah, it's like there's two different acts though that you can request the information under, and depending on if you use the Privacy Act or the Freedom of Information Act, depends on how much or what you get. And like one you have to use paper, and the other you can. I don't know. I'm just now looking into it. So, but yeah.
Um, well, I like that RTM Tech points out that they can still redact parts of your life, and that is something else they can do. You can request the information, but it can be heavily redacted to where you may only get the file number out of it. So
Mm.
other things to watch out for. But they definitely are trying to make it harder, especially since so many news organizations do use that to their advantage very often nowadays.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, and why not? I mean, news organizations always do, but I mean, what if you wanted to know, some information on someone else? Like, I mean,
yeah,
or
you
even
can do
yourself. Just like I'm just curious in knowing what about myself that they've got going on. It's more of a and they contacted me that one time about the whole crypto locker thing back in the day, and it was like, okay, well, they know who I am now. All
yeah.
right.
Well,
Let's see what
they
I'm
already
doing on
knew
my
who you
computer.
were.
Lose.
The video I just posted is the one that the Futures Tech crew has been talking about with the review for Anti-Beacon. I'll have to check that out. I really did like Spybot back in the day. That and Adaware were my two go-to tools back in the Windows XP days. So if they're doing better, I'll give them another shot. But honestly,
D7 was built on those tools, man.
yeah,
It wasn't. It wasn't. It wasn't until they became unsuitable and other things popped up that the custom app system emerged.
yeah. So um, and Phoenix points out how to create a custom app video or custom app for there. So we've actually done a couple updated ones since that one with the Foolish Tech Show.
Hmm.
And those should be under the D72 video playlist. I'll see if I can pull one up real quick here. But yeah, if they've done better, then I'm interested in it. But again, really, this whole privacy thing with Windows 10 is not something I'm afraid of, honestly. Like, it's not something that bothers me at all.
Yeah, me either.
Um, like Michael,
It
do you?
turned off. They let me, but that and even the ones a couple that most people probably don't dig for. or other things, but maybe I have a couple of processes that have an IFEO running installed so they can't run.
Michael, are you
And
there?
that's a common issue in my event viewer, but whatever. So yeah, but I'm not worried about it. Generally.
I mean, I really have absolutely little to no care about the privacy stuff in Windows 10. It makes no difference at all if it goes to there, I feel.
Well, I know that whatever they tell you and whatever they put in the EULA is like, okay, for one, seems like most of that the scary terminology is like on the off chance of something that could be classified as something similar to the thing that you're actually worried about, which is 100 times more valuable and personal to you than what it's the language is actually in there for. And a lot of times it's just lawyerese for, hey, let's cover everything because we want to get this one, EULA paid for that we don't have to keep redoing every time we do some different tech, and it has to be like analyzed. And no, they'll just do a big all-encompassing EULA, especially for something like an OS. I mean, come on, every bit of data in everywhere it has access to technically. Um, so that's the thing, though. Like, if you're worried about what they're telling you now, I think it's probably mostly because of those reasons. But what I was always worried when they didn't tell you things like, like the FBI and Microsoft. Okay, it's probably been Windows 7, Windows XP. They've probably been like every time somebody has a webcam plugged up, that light don't come on, but you never know. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah.
you never know, and
Shree
they've never
points
said
out.
anything. They never to.
Shree points out that she's not concerned about the privativity, but the bandwidth it's taking up and the advertising that links back through that. And somewhat valid concern,
That could be an
but
issue.
I really don't think that it's taking up that much bandwidth, honestly. I mean, if there's some
Well, there are
documentation
things that
out
I
there,
don't want running on my system just because I don't use them, and I don't care what they're doing. And I'm not talking about things like telemetry for data diagnostics and whatnot for OS performance and crashes and other things. I'm talking about Skype host and all of these like things that I don't use, I don't want on my system running, yet you can't remove them. So I have like IFEOs for these things, a lot of them. But so I agree with that completely, But I don't really care what kind of information they're going after. I know if they want it, they want it. The people who I should really worry about.
what IFEO stuff do you have?
Mostly Skype stuff. I think there's a couple other things. I'd have to catch me. But I know the Skype ones are the main ones because those annoy the snot. You could also do stuff about related to the Windows Store and the apps and all that if you want.
Well, hey, they did take out one thing in Windows 10 that I was super upset about. The sharing your Wi-Fi with your contacts. They took that out of the latest preview build. So that was
That
like,
was a concern, actually.
yeah, that's a good move on them. But
that was a concern. I think I've benefited from that, actually.
really?
And I was like, oh, how neatly convenient. Hey, wait a minute. How can I disable this?
I haven't benefited from that. Sheree says they send your contacts to MS, but what contacts do you store on Windows? Like, I mean, if you're signing into Windows Mail, then yeah, they could probably send that. If you're signing into Outlook, then yeah, they could probably send that. But past that, you don't really have contacts that you store on.
Yeah, but are those contact? I mean, are they sent encrypted? Yes. Are they sent? Are they used for? What are they used for? I guess is now what you got to ask, because, like, if they're used for transferring my data to a new computer or something when I log back in somewhere else or whatever, then I'm fine with that, provided that there's a certain level of security and I know what it is. But
Yeah, and at some point too, we got to remember that these are like features they added to try to make it so that these things are better for you, like computers and things work better for you. It's like they're
even something as
features.
simple, you
They're
would
not
have to
like,
give permission for something like it would sound like detrimental, the legalese involved in in Microsoft going and just scanning your email address. Oh, you have a Gmail account, so then I know I can use that, that data, to tailor something or other to Gmail. And then, oh, maybe they can look at the first part of that. Well, they could feed your email address into an algorithm and decide what you like based on what if you've named it
well, I
something.
mean, people freaked out about Gmail doing that originally. That was like the biggest
Yeah.
privacy
hmm
scare ever, and it's like, wow, you're still sending emails with them, and it's still not a problem, and you
I
get
know, right?
that tell you cool things, or you block those ads if you don't want to see that. So
It does seem like we were faced with these same exact issues with Windows 10. It seems like we were faced with these same exact issues with like Google and other companies like in the past, and we got over it. And here it is again, and just with a different face.
well, my thing with the whole privacy aspect of it is, what are they going to do with it? I mean, really, what are they going to do
Right.
to
What are they gonna do? Make my experience better?
yeah, like that's the only thing that they're going to try to do with that. They're not like going to go out and sell it to ISIS or anything, so
Well, I don't know.
not that big of a scare.
They'll sell it to Procter and Gamble or someone, but no. And I mean, they've got it anyway, so
Yeah,
at least they can tell you what you like versus what you don't.
I think the whole thing is kind of a moot point, and really, if
It's
I'd
neat
like
when
to
I
see,
type something into a search engine and it kind of knows what I'm looking for, even though it's something obscure. But it's scary at the same time now, isn't it? We had this conversation the other day. I purchased a piece of from a local furniture gallery at the time. I didn't do anything electronically at all, to my knowledge. And yet, when I went to Amazon.com the other day, because I had to replace a part on that piece of furniture, it had a motor and a little motorized recliner. When I had to replace the power thing for it, and it was a big long number, model number for this specific looking adapter with some specific looking physical connectors, and I started off with the model number, and I got 2 characters into it, and it popped down exactly the model number of what I was looking for.
yeah,
And I was making this comment. I was like, gee, model number ZB or whatever it was. I was like, that must be really obscure for some reason in like every industry, and we were talking about it, and Tank's like, I don't get that, and I'm thinking, well, how does it know living room furniture? How does Amazon know living room furniture that I've purchased from a vendor? Obviously, the vendor has something that is now available online about my living room furniture or not online, but that Amazon has purchased or that they've sold. I don't know what's going on, but it's bothering me a little bit, But at the same time, all of this information, it did make my life surprisingly better when I hit ZB and I didn't have to type the dash and the next 11 characters. I was pretty happy. I was
yeah,
able to order it with
it
one
got
click
you what you
too.
wanted. So
Yeah. Yeah, and it actually saved me a lot of time, I felt like. And I was like, well, crap, it knows what I'm looking for. I don't really have to research different models to make sure it's the right one. Obviously, Amazon knows what's up. So, and I know I do not have an Echo or anything. I have an Amazon Fire TV before anyone asks, and it's still in the box. I've never even taken it out of the box. I got it for Christmas, and the Alexa thing worries me a little bit. And I've wanted to do Alexa so bad, and then like it worries me so bad. And I'm back and forth. And then Brantley was just telling me, today or yesterday that hey, it's a good thing you didn't do that, by the way.
Yeah,
What
because
was it?
this link here, the FBI can neither confirm nor deny wiretapping your Amazon Echo, and that can't hear everything that it's in the room of. So, interesting there.
And it's funny, and we all laugh, and and the part of me that goes back to, and this is what I suspected anyway, but the part of me that goes back to still wanting it and still considering it is that I can't seem to get them to unplug the Xbox or the Kinect device from the Xbox or something in the living room. And I mean, that could be doing it. I mean, Microsoft works with the feds, right?
Everybody works.
So there's an Xbox device in my living room that has like video and sound, and it just like smartly identifies random people and you and different people in the room, and it knows you from other people. Well, okay, and so it's pointing right at everything you do and listening to everything you say. You can tell it to stop listening, but it's listening enough to know that when you want it to do something, it'll start listening again.
Yeah. So that's. I mean, I don't. I wouldn't buy one.
And we're worried about the Amazon Echo, really?
I'm not worried about either because I'm not going to buy either of those. They're terrible devices.
But comparatively, I'm just saying, like, if you've got an Xbox with the Kinect, then you really can't be that worried in the same way, can you?
No, I mean, yeah, you should be worried about everything you have. And that would be something else to point out to people if they're using their Xbox connected to the internet. That probably takes up a lot of bandwidth itself.
We were talking. Did I mention this on the show, or was this elsewhere about my TV that has the wireless access point that you can't
elsewhere.
disable? And there's no. Okay. My TV, my Vizio television, it has a wireless access point built into it that you cannot disable, nor, I don't know what security vulnerabilities exist for it, nor have I tried to break into it or do anything with it. However, it does have a password that they do not tell you, and they do not mention the access point anywhere in the documentation. And from what I found online from some other people talking about it, was that they told someone that it was required by the remote control, even though it only shows up once you've had the television connected to the internet. Because if you haven't had the television connected to the internet, then the access point never just appears. Why is that? Why does my television have an access point that didn't even enable itself for like a year?
Who knows?
That you can't disable.
All right,
about a screwdriver.
Enough about the screwy privacy. Everything is out to get you. Amazing, terrible world that we live in. Let's move on to
It's
other.
connected to your home network. You got to think about that, though. Somebody roll up outside, but even just connected to your network, what's that TV saying to Vizio's server? Anywho.
Yeah, you have to think about everything that you do and if you want to take that risk or not. So if you want Netflix on your TV, you're going to be taking a risk. It's not anything that should be new to anyone.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm gonna get off my little privacy thing, but it's just scary to me. But how can you worry so much about it? Then you have to come back and say, "Don't worry about it. Just chill out." That's why I chill out on the Windows thing. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I said we should chill out on the Windows thing.
I should chill out. everything else.
It's all crazy ridiculous. There's no point to worrying about any of it.
Pretty much, no.
Oh, that was not the one I wanted to end. Maybe this one is. Nope, that's not the one I wanted to end either. That was. Alright, that's still up. 1 second. We're reorganizing after that big long rant distraction. Yes, Phoenix, delete system 32 and reload. Anyway, back on to some interesting stuff before we have to wrap up here today. Senators are trying to stop the Supreme Court ruling that basically gave the FBI the power to hack anything, anywhere. I thought that was pretty interesting. Later, RTM Tech. This was cool about OpenData and relating back to the Freedom of Information Act and things like that. But apparently, the NYPD has been giving parking tickets to people that have been legally parked and made quite a bit of money off of it. So, OpenData allowed people to find that out and now probably sue them against it. Oh, and this was an interesting one. Proctor, you brought up the thing about the kid finding the Mayan city using star maps and stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of people have questions about that, and some of them even think that it might just be a marijuana grow op.
Oh wow.
So it's an interesting article because basically it's like everybody is just guessing and they're all saying it's wrong, but not a lot of people have been there. So I was kind of interested in that. Then easiest way to paint a room. That's pretty awesome. You can explode paint cans, and you don't have to worry about painting anymore. And we had talked about how safe the Tesla was. Apparently, it's not safe if you don't know how to use it, because this Tesla crashed itself. But the Tesla responded saying that the owner just enabled the summons feature and didn't know what they were doing. So I thought that was kind of cool. Lastly, I was going to try to show off the options you have for D7.2 to adjust your Windows updates and things, because there's some talk in the chat about them being enabled and re-enabled and not being able to be done on home and things of that nature. So there is a way in D7.2 that you can adjust how updates are done. Like I mentioned, those tweaks, and there's some other options, and I kind of want to just show those off as our wrap up for today's show. So I'm trying to get a VM loaded up here so that we can check those features out. So I'll probably be sharing my screen here shortly, Proctor.
All right.
I got to get things set up for it. And I think that'll work. Folder 7.2. And let's see how long that takes to get set up here. So, I think we're set up. Let me just make sure. Do 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 do. Come on, computer VM. Speed up. Alright, so I'll show my screen off here. And, oops, stop doing stuff I didn't tell you to do. Where is that? Dang it, where is it? Didn't we say that it's a terrible idea to do things on the fly? Yes, it is. It's a terrible idea to do things on the fly. We could do something like that, Cherie. We do have a couple of videos like that for our DMZ.
It's a marvelous idea, Shri. I was just looking at that as I come back. I was like checking out. Oh, yeah.
Well, I did have that. I did have a few of those that I'd already done for the DMZ option too.
Yeah, there's a couple, but we got so many, and like some newer ones that we run into would be, something like that.
Where is it? Because I'm apparently blanking, Nick. Where's the Windows Update tool for D72? How do you get to that?
What?
Because apparently I'm completely blanking. The tool to set when updates occur and if it restarts and all that.
Oh, go to the Windows menu. Something. Wait, or is it internal? That's internal. Yeah, go to that. Yeah.
There you go. That's what I was.
There's something you can click on there too. I think it's like an alert or something.
Yeah,
or
I knew
it's like where the automatic updates are enabled or not.
Yeah, Windows updates are fully enabled. You could click on that if it was a red alert, but not if it's regular.
Yeah.
But that's what I was looking for, was the internal Windows automatic update settings. You can set those here, and this will work for both the Pro and the Home version. So you can do both of those.
Yeah, it doesn't have to work with group policy or anything, even though it uses that for the bottom bit. It does use those settings. It's like crypto prevent. It just uses group policy, but not the.
Jeez, Phoenix, calm down a little bit. You don't have to tell Cherie Google's your friend. Cherie's an extremely knowledgeable person.
Man, Cherie puts half the stuff on Google, fool.
Yeah, should it wake up in the morning, Google would be empty. You'd be surprised.
But anyway, this is something that you can work with versions of Home where you're not able to set the automatic updates. You can set it here and apply some various different tweaks and settings, such as no automatic reboot with logged on users, disabling multiple reboots warning timeouts, show the restart later nag only once. So all of these can be used, and both with the Pro and Home versions. So if you have some situation like some of your business clients that don't want to invest in a WSUS server, then you can use this to manually configure when you run updates and maintain them on your own that way.
Hey, and even enable non-admins to postpone the restart and installation of updates is another good one if you actually do restrict your users and care about them as well.
Now, I have never thought about this, and I'm not sure what the security implications of it are, but what about running your own WSUS server from your network and providing it for your clients to access? Have you heard anything about that?
But
Or,
well,
I mean, I know
yeah,
bandwidth would be a
but
limitation, but
I know, and see, no, I that would only really be worth it on site.
well, I
It's
mean,
it
if it
would.
was on a Amazon server,
Mm-mm, it wouldn't be worth it. Because I mean, like you don't know. I mean, you don't know what Windows updates got going on, and now that most people don't even know that you need to disable this, that have that feature where it's like peer to peer, in 10. But even previously, I mean,
well,
I don't
no,
see.
if it's set
Like
to do
it is like
this,
whatever Microsoft servers. I mean, it would be like a bad day, I guess, for their servers to be overloaded or whatever. But I mean, generally,
no,
the way they
if it's set to
about.
do this, it's going to check this for what needs to be updated and what doesn't need to be updated. So WSUS will control which updates you allow to be pushed out. It may download it from your LAN computer, but it's not
Hmm.
going to check the LAN computer and say, "Oh, can I install this update?" It's going to check the WSUS server or the
Hmm.
Microsoft server for that. So,
Yeah,
I
I
don't
guess
think
that would apply the policies though.
yeah. But I think that would probably be an interesting option if you were
But I thought the updates
anticipating
had to
an
come
update.
from the WC server, though. I thought the files came from the WC server,
It
like because
would.
you have to cache all that crap on it.
It would. Those would come
Yeah.
from there, and again, the bandwidth concerns would be the primary cost and
Well, right,
hindrance
and I'm
about
also
that.
saying it's not going to necessarily be faster if you've got a bunch of clients doing that
It's not about
on your.
faster though. It's about controlling what updates get applied.
Yeah, yeah,
So
good
if you
point.
have 500 customers that you manage and you don't want any update going through without your approval, like there was actually an update that came out recently for this past Patch Tuesday actually, or just prior to it. There was an update that came out for Windows 7 that crashed Asus motherboard computers, and they had to work with Microsoft and
Yeah,
Asus.
You know what?
yeah,
You've
I
just
heard that.
convinced me
Yeah.
to just do this personally anyway, and then I'll just experiment with it.
Yeah, well, I'm saying I wouldn't mind us having a WSUS server and then applying all the updates to Michael's computer no matter what.
I'm listening. I'm here now. You know that, right?
I force it to
um,
reboot, log on.
it was intended to, but I don't see any reason why you couldn't host it on a cloud, Phoenix, um,
Yeah, because
and
if
would
I'm not
work on
mistaken, you
Windows
can use
Home.
host names as well, but I don't know that for certain. It may have to be an IP address, but
I mean, we'd be able to get an IP address, but the um,
oh, I want to note that I believe that also uses the port notation just like you would in an FTP client or something like that. I mean, you do like IP address or or web browser or whatever, like IP address colon port number. I believe that works in there as well.
yeah.
Or- So
So just just to wrap it up today, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up since we're past our
yeah,
hour definitely
it's
now.
interesting.
We do have update settings that you can configure with D7.2, so check those out if you're concerned about being able to set updates or when systems restart on Home and Pro and prior to that preview release of the active hours. Um, so just check that out. And otherwise, I think we'll wrap her on up here today.
Awesome.
And we want to thanks everyone for watching and throwing out all that interesting stuff. Thanks the entire Futures Tech gang, Phoenix, RTM Tech. Everyone is always welcome, and thanks for having you here. And otherwise, we will be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. for our Friday end of the week show. And we hope everyone has a good rest of their day. Take us on out, Proctor.
All right.